ever did. I was kind of like very nervous.
Yeah.
So this is how how did I get started? Here's my beginning step. I would love to tell you how I started and first learned to make tortillas. My mother and my grandmothers before me always had a passion to cook all kinds of delicious foods as I do. And could I say I'm still learning as I go? I first experimented with making dough for fry bread and tortillas at the age of 7. Sometimes I could think it wasn't a choice. Honestly, it's the best thing that I was taught. The fact that I am a left-handed, I wasn't really taught, more like self-taught. My mother is a right-handed and I'm a left-handed. So I had to kind of like learn on my own. I always became very impatient and frustrated, but I was determined to achieve my goal. I have 2 older brothers who are and were very supportive at the time. I could practice and try to make it for them. At the time, it would come out still like sticky, but they would still eat it for me and encourage me to keep practicing. I could say it a little over 3 weeks to master. I say master because to this day I enjoy it. For my ingredients, personally, I like to use the bluebird flour, but for now, I've been using the all-purpose flour as a substitute. I like to use the Clabber Girl baking powder and a pinch of salt. And then, honestly, I just like eyeball measure my ingredients.
Well, thank you.
And then how it's going, this is my second one. As I gather my ingredients, I like to clean up around my area. My mother had always told me to keep it clean where I'm cooking. Of course, I'm sure everyone is the same. My next step, I usually use hot water. I really don't need a whole cup of water, just adding little by little. There are times when I was still learning, I would accidentally add too much to where I add more flour and it wouldn't come out so good. So either I would add a little less water than I thought and it came out too hard. My mother and my grandmother always tell me to have a clear mind while I'm cooking, always have good thoughts and put love into cooking, because of course I'm cooking with love and for my loved ones. When it comes to mixing the dough, I've always seen it done different ways, such as using a mixer, using a fork or a spoon. I personally like to use my hands. Knowing the consistency I would want it to be, kneading the dough is very important. You don't want to knead it too hard for too long or too light for too less. I like to cover the dough with a lid and let it set for about 15 to 10 minutes. While my dough is setting, I like to preheat my pan, or if I'm making it over the open fire, which is the best. That's the water, and then I mix it with my hand, and that's the last outcome.
Yeah.
Oh, about that one.
Okay, top left, very top left, way up.
Oh, right here.
Yep. There you go. You're
Oh,
good.
here it is.
Focus.
Sorry.
Well, your list is taking 5 years.
So what are the good things happening? What are the bad things happening? I could say in the process of still learning, there was always a lot of mistakes I've made, from it being too sticky to not being able to tear apart or actually start and cook the dough. As the few minutes I let it set, I learned that I like to roll my dough into small balls. As I roll them, each one by one, I put a little bit of cooking oil on my hand and roll them one by one. Before then, as I was still learning, I would always put too much oil on my hands and dipping it way too much in flour, making the whole space white. Learning the way I do makes everything easier for me and less messy. When I finish rolling them into balls, I use my hand to slap them flat and round. I've seen some people do it differently, using a rolling pin. I never really learned to use a rolling pin, and I never had the interest in trying. I learned to do it with my hands. Each time I really enjoy making fry bread and tortillas over the open fire, as I stated before. After my process of making tortillas round on the pan, I like to cook onto the pan until the flour is nice and bubbly and golden brown. There are a few ways it could be done. As I stated before, I make sure that the dough is nice and thin on the outsides of my tortilla, just to know that it won't be sticky. Of course, to let it cook evenly. The process makes it easier. As I was still learning years ago, it took me a while to learn to make my tortillas as I wanted. I know the patience played a huge role into making any type of food. I grew up always having bread with my meals. It probably isn't the healthiest choice, but I think it's more common for native to have bread as a side dish, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or brunch. To this day, my kids like bread with their meals. Growing up, my mother told me that I needed to learn how to make bread for my future husband. As a Native woman, that's an important part of going into womanhood, knowing how to be in the kitchen and take responsibility, also to know how to cook and clean around the house. That's how my grandmother before me were raised, to be home taking care of the kids and maintaining the house while your husband is out working to support you. And here's my finished project. I hope you don't mind, but I do like my tortillas with various foods. I learned how to make homemade tortillas, not only making it, but having good thoughts and putting positive energy into what I put together. It may not be the healthiest, but it sure is tasty. I'm sure I'm interested in seeing other tribes' tortillas, just as I was with the fry bread when I first came here to North Dakota. There are many other ways that it can be consumed, even for leftovers. For my kids, they like to eat it with peanut butter and jam. I learned patience and honesty. I learned self-awareness as well, to know my abilities as a young lady. I would like to know more about cultures. I take interest in other traditions and cultures and respect how each and every culture is different. Cooking is a skill that can be learned and honed. I don't know, I think that's a typo.
That's a word.
Oh, okay, honed. Cooking, like any other art and craft, requires practice and dedication to improve your abilities. You can learn basic techniques, gradually master more complex dishes, can be a source of stress relief and connection. The process of cooking can be calming and meditative, and sharing a meal with loved one can strengthen bonds and create lasting memories. When you cook, you stimulate your senses to feel the new flour you bought at the market, the smell of the fresh strawberries, the sound of the whisk beating. All of the things can stimulate your senses, which contributes to get more endorphins. Those feel good, the hormones that put a smile on your face. Studies show that baking and cooking helps relieve stress. In fact, the other suggested is an activity to help with anxiety and depressions. Experts say that the soothing act of cooking helps boost confidence and keeps thoughts focused to ultimately avoid negative self-talk. People love food and people enjoy being taken care of. A few things that you can care more about preparing somebody a delicious meal. Cooking takes time, effort, and planning, and it shows people in your life how much you care about when you feed them.